Good. Hi, this is Scott. We're seeing a couple of us here at Old Dominion and lots of people online. We're not going to have everybody introduce themselves per se. You can do that in the chat. Let's see that's what's going on there. And our next session is, I'm blanking on the date, November 21st. We have Guy Wallace who'll be talking about performance and gap analysis. If you look him up on LinkedIn, he's an expert, been around for 30 years doing it, and he's amazing. So he's going to be presenting next month. Also, the ISPI International Conference is going to be in Jacksonville, Florida, in April of 2025. Presentation proposals are due like December 11th. Reach out to me if you would like to present and need some help on crafting your presentation. The good news with ISPI, they have a very high acceptance rate. So if you craft it right, you'll probably get accepted. And so that's it for this. I'm gonna hand it over to Meg to introduce yourself and start the presentation.
Awesome. Well, hi everybody. I am really excited to be here, to get to hang out with you tonight. I mentioned earlier in the chat, it's been a few years since I've been in Hampton Roads, so I'm not really there, but I'm kind of there, and I'm gonna channel that vibe a little bit. And I want to talk about something that a lot of us have on our minds these days. So those of you in the room, you can use your fingers or maybe your toes. Those of you online, do me a favor, in the last 1 month, how many presentations or videos have you watched about artificial intelligence? I saw that they're in the room, like lots of them. 7, 3, 1 today. Yes. Right. It's kind of funny. I remember I was on a conference committee for a major conference a few years ago when virtual reality was all the hot rage, right? And everybody, right? It's like, we couldn't get anybody to talk about Articulate Storyline because everybody wanted to talk about AI. So it's a fun space. It is. It's fascinating. It's transformative, and I'm glad that you are all here with me tonight. I'm also glad that this appears to be a very interactive group, right? And we have the opportunity to hang out because I would be remiss if I didn't say that I want to hear from you and learn from you. I am pretty sure I am not the only expert in the room, and that's actually what makes this more fun. So I want to hear from you. Feel free. This is a nice small group. We can come off mute and talk about stuff, right? And really dig in deep. As per my norm, I have brought way more slides than I have time for, and that's okay. We're going to go real fast through some stuff, and we're going to spend a good time talking about the stuff that we really need to spend a good time talking about. So let's rock and roll, shall we? I have a firm belief, and I'd like to test this out with you. I believe that our L&D professionals are going to play a crucial, or are playing a crucial and exciting role in rolling out AI in our organizations. And I'm not talking about just within L&D. And I'm also, I believe that we're worried we're not going to get it right. So I see a couple people nodding their heads. Talk to me. What resonates about this? Why are we nodding our heads? What are we thinking about here?
I can jump in. I talked to one client, and he's responsible for kind of cascading AI throughout his organization.
Mm-hmm.
So not not only, I mean, first training the C-suite, then training the next level down, then making sure everybody, every department head determines how they're going to use it in their department, then running every other week forums with the CEO so people can report back what they're doing. So it's not just the training, but kind of this whole structure and cascading approach to roll it out and have people apply it.
I think that's fantastic, because if all we're doing is teaching people to use it, we're missing a huge piece of the opportunity. So that's fantastic, right? Somebody is taking a really strategic approach. What about somebody else? Thanks, Lisa, for getting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to answer a question with a question, but might this be generational? I'm not disagreeing with you, but could it be that those of us, you know, who are closer to retirement than not, are a little bit more scared than the younger generations?
That's interesting. I don't know. Let's talk about that. And yeah, let's talk about that. I'm not going to cede the space too much. I noticed some early career and some experienced operators in the room. We can have a really good conversation.
I think that professionals in L&D are concerned about how fast AI is changing. So, you know, yeah, we can go and help deploy something now or teach something now, and then, you know, by tomorrow, by next year, you know, you've got something completely new. And you know, in L&D, we worry about producing products, right, to our workforce that expires or you know, that they're going to feel is irrelevant. So I think that's part of the fear.
Thanks. Do you pronounce your name Arlea?
Arlea, yes.
Arlea, awesome. Thanks.
Hey, this is Scott. I think, you know, the reason that L&D can do it rather than IT is the low barrier of entry. A lot of the technology is free or low barriers of entry that you can play with, as opposed to like trying to play with VR. You probably could play with that too, but L&D's always chased bright and shiny objects. And so I'm always skeptical about AI being the next bright and shiny object. Or learning likes to take things that weren't designed for learning and try to use them in learning. And so here's another one, not exactly sure who designed AI and what it was designed for and what it can and can't do. That's kind of why we're all here tonight, to figure that out, to say, to kind of answer that question. What is our role in L&D in AI deployment, and what could it be? So hopefully we'll get a little better, clearer picture after this. I don't think we have an answer to this. Hopefully you're going to help us determine, you know, maybe I can jump into this or maybe I shouldn't.
It's almost like you know where we're going, Scott.
Hi, it's Erwin. I think the challenge for L&D is to build really strong relationships, not only with IT, which many of them have, but also with all the business functions. And therein is the challenge, that unless you have really good business understandings about procurement and all the other functions in the organization, you're going to have a hard time working with them, because they want to be able to figure out how to apply AI to their particular problems when and if the organization ever moves to using it internally.
Excellent point. And Ern, I think we already have many of those relationships just because of the nature of the work that we do.
Yeah.
So
true.
we tend to be highly networked in our organizations.
We are, but I think there's a different level of issue in that. You know,
Mhm.
usually we're coaching managers or doing leadership, or, you know, offering courses by somebody else teaching them or us teaching them. But AI is a little bit different. You know, as you know from your own work, you have to develop a lot of depth about AI, and it's very difficult to do that when you also are servicing L&D stuff in the organization.
Absolutely. Bill, you were going to jump in?
Yeah, I think I have a similar thought of, there's different perspectives or different ways to learn about AI or use AI. For instance, if you use AI as a needs analysis, some type of super data analysis or whatever, that's one thing. Or using AI to deliver training and such like that, and learning how to utilize AI to deliver training. So there's different things there, but for a business, using it as a needs analysis part of the learning and development should be a valuable, it will be a valuable part of learning and development creation. Over.
Yeah, absolutely. And hold that thought, because we're going to talk about some of the things that that I'm seeing that either my teams are using or that that I'm seeing others use. Awesome, awesome. Well, I ought to do a proper introduction. My name is Megan Torrance, everybody. I am the founder and CEO at Torrance Learning, and we pull in a lot of threads. So we created an approach to using agile methods in learning and development. We've got off-the-shelf products and course products. So if you use Open Sesame or Cornerstone or Udemy, you can find our Eleventure series there, including an AI series of courses there. We are passionate about getting better data. Bill, love it, right? Needs analysis, getting better data about what we're doing from start to finish on a project. And so we founded the XAPI learning cohort. We created Zaply and a bunch of tools. We are also committed to widening the access to learning as well as to the profession. So we created a curriculum called Cultivating Racial Equity in the Workplace. I'm also a facilitator at eCornell, the professional development courses in women's executive leadership and communication, team building, and the psychology of leadership. And in my spare time, I teach instructional systems design at Penn State in their learning design and technology program. I actually, you all will get this because you're in our field. I was having an informational interview this afternoon with a early career professional who said, so that seems like a lot. Like, talk to me about work-life balance. I'm like, balance? I'm having way too much fun at work. Would love to connect up with you here, there, everywhere. I would love to be at the, actually I connected up with a few of you at the national conference in May. So at the end of the day, right, in Torrance Learning, we do learning strategy and design and development. We do platform selection and running it, collecting data and analyzing it, and supporting our clients really from an end-to-end perspective across the learning stack. I do what you do. Right, like we're all among friends here, and I care about what you do, and I care about how we all do it, right, and that we're doing it to the best of our capabilities. That's why I care so much about sharing. But I think Scott M suggested, right, I like really new shiny things, and that's, to me, it's very fun. It is very tempting, and I think it is a call for us to make sure that we're not just doing new shiny for the sake of new shiny. Just today I had somebody who said, oh, I had a webinar earlier and they said, oh, should we turn on the brand new AI chatbot? I'm like, what does it do? She said, I think it turns our chats different colors and gives us better emojis. Like, how about not? Right. So, and there were other things it did, but that was the most front and center, right? And so there's a fair amount of what we call AI washing, right? And making some sort of magic button that does AI, but maybe not does anything useful. So question for you, what's a recent thing you've done using AI tools? And they could be generative AI, or they could be straight up analytical AI that's been around for decades. Go ahead, come off mute, jot it down in the chat. Shout it out with hand signals if you're Old Dominion.
Hey, this is Scott. At the Coast Guard, we use ChatGPT to summarize content for an e-learning.
Love it.
Exciting, but we had ugly policy documents and we had to summarize stuff. So that worked out pretty well. Why were we using ChatGPT? To say that we could, we did. There was not, which is not a very compelling reason. That they're like, oh, this is modernized learning and we're using AI. And I'm like, okay. So it's a little bit faster than summarizing it yourself, but it wasn't really solving a problem. It was more of an opportunity.
Yes, yes.
It's this is Mark in the room here. So I've been using it inside a system I've actually developed for ISPI inside our awards management. And the awards are rather voluminous when submitted. And they need to be. There's a level of detail to demonstrate excellence, but in terms of a reminder what they're talking about or stuff like that, all the applicants put in a summary, and depending on what region of the world they come from, kind of affects the clarity and the length of it and stuff like that. So I actually run it through a ChatGPT, or actually it's a different service, but to summarize their summary, and get it down to, this is the essence of it. So now we're, at least the review team starts at a common ground. So that's one little use that I've applied.
Nice. I like it. Thank you.
I was recently working with some folks on some change management functions, and someone in the meeting gave an explanation of some change management elements, and I remember thinking that it wasn't very clear to some of the people, and I was thinking about, like, okay, what's a personal or like real life example where people could understand this concept better. And then I was going to write it. I was heading to write it on my, notebook, and I was like, oh, let me put it in ChatGPT. Like, here's the example that I'd like to correlate the elements of change management to. Write me a summary about that or whatever. I don't know what prompt I told it, but it generated something pretty nice, and it was quicker than me, going through and writing it out. And of course, I can go back and edit it to be what I would like it to be and make sure it's personalized, but it definitely, sped up my process.
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you in the room, I'm not sure if you can see the chat, but what we've got coming in the chat, I use it all the time for marketing and writing newsletter articles, robo audio, rewriting somebody's a board chair's letter to the membership to make it a little more engaging. Wow, we can make senior executives more fun and human. That seems like a pretty compelling point there. Identifying current challenges that executive women are experiencing in their work and their personal lives, so I could create training programs to help them solve or handle those issues. Using it to come up with meaningful questions to ask at an industry conference next week. This is some good stuff. I love it. I love it. This is some good stuff. So there's a lot going on and a lot of things that we've got access to. And as you think about all that could be happening in your space, right? One of my favorite quotes when I think about technology change is this one. William Gibson, science fiction author, he's the guy who created the term cyberspace. If we were to go based on this photograph, he appears to be closer to the retirement age of things rather than the early career things. But he's a pretty hip dude. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. I thought that was fascinating, right? So there are people now who are doing fantastic and really wonderful things. And there are people now who look at the kinds of things that we are doing in L&D and think, man, that's pretty cool, right? So there's a lot going on. And here's the thing, right? Whoops, wrong slide. That slide. Here's the thing. AI itself has been around for decades. We actually just don't even call it AI anymore, right? It recommends what TV shows to watch. It scans our mammograms. It tells us how to get downtown and avoid traffic. It does all sorts of fascinating things for us, and it's invisible. right? And along comes ChatGPT, and then very quickly everybody else pushed their models out. Along comes ChatGPT about this time 2 years ago, and put a tool that otherwise used to be behind huge, huge walls organizationally, right? You had to, in order to create or interact with one of those tools on the inside, right? Not the consumer facing side, but on the inside directly, you had to have a computer science advanced degree and budget and lots of processing power and a lot of smarts. OpenAI put it on a browser. It kind of looked like an empty Google browser, if you ask me. And it was free. And you talked to it in whatever language you wanted to. And so we all of a sudden have this like completely different way of engaging with this tool. And we've got new tools and we're trying to figure out what's going on. At the same time, we're helping our organizations figure out what their new tools are. And if we're tired and kind of frazzled, that might be why. Right? And of course, this comes right on the heels of pandemic, major shifts in the labor markets, major shifts in where work gets done, and a ton of fallout from that. I don't know if fallout's maybe a bad word, but implications, right? Good and bad, of massive shifts in how our workforce engages every day. And now we give them this like incredibly powerful new tool, and it's pretty amazing stuff. And it is like just about every other idea, technology, bits and bytes, or paradigm, or technology like paper and the wheel and fire and pyramids and those kinds of things, right? There's a pretty predictable pathway here. So we start doing things faster. We then have the ability to start doing things better, right? Faster and better. And we're going to spend a lot of time in when we talked about like what's working now. What's working now is definitely in the faster and better framework. Different, right? Different are things that we probably cannot imagine yet. Certainly cannot do, but they will be here very quickly. And revolutionary is things you can't remember. So 30 years, so I'm thinking different is in that 3 to 5, maybe 7 year time frame. Revolutionary is in decades, right? Did you know 30 years ago, state-of-the-art technology for something like one of these, right? State-of-the-art technology was in a big bag over my shoulder with a Velcro, right? Like it went like this as I opened up. It had a handset and a horrible battery life, crummy service, right? And now we have entire marketplaces around apps for phones. I actually don't even take telephone. I don't like to take telephone calls on this thing. I do so many other things. I can track my heart rate and my temperature and whether or not I'm getting sick and how far I walked today. Right? And there are entire jobs and class and university majors that did not exist 3 decades ago. And I'm smart enough to know that my phone 3 decades ago was not the earliest mobile phone, but it was a pretty early commercial phone, right? So things that are the different and the revolutionary things we can't even imagine yet. And I heard a quote, maybe it was yesterday, it was yesterday. It was AI is overhyped and underestimated. And it was like, oh yeah, right? Tons and tons of hype. And we now know what these patterns are. We can see the pattern. We don't know where the patterns are going to take us, but there's some pretty powerful stuff. A lot of the work that we're doing right now in AI, right, and a lot of the buzz is focused on faster and better. It's automation, it's speed. Right? We are making things faster. Right? Maybe we're making things better. In fact, if you have not yet had the humbling experience of having ChatGPT do a better and more thorough job on a particular task than you were planning on doing, I challenge you to go to that place and experience that. It's not a comfortable place necessarily, although it is pretty exciting when you figure out that if this has become, instead of your competitor, it's your teammate, right? You level up everything you do. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. So this graph on the left, it's a little bit tricky to read, and I'm guessing it's next to impossible to read for those of you who are in the room. This is a screenshot from reports or a research report done in March and April of 2024, where Don Taylor asked, what are you doing with AI, right? So the top, I'm going to read top to down to bottom: learning design tasks, creating learning content, researching subject matter, administrative tasks, learning personalization, that's the purple one, user research, translation, qualitative data analysis, right? Bill, that gets to some of the things you were starting to talk about, right? Skills practice, performance support, that's the green one, quantitative data analysis, skills management, other, and none of the above. Okay. Faster and better, not necessarily a whole lot of different based on what we're doing, which means we know it's coming. We can see it's coming. And next time you see, somebody doing something with AI and you're cool, I want you to be thinking, is that faster, better, different, or revolutionary? Right. There's a few kind of just quick workplace statistics. This was last summer. This was interesting. So last August, Gallup did a survey of top CHROs. I don't know why that's a phrase. It just doesn't come out of my mouth. Right. This question, let me get my pen here so I can highlight what we're looking at. Short term, do you see AI replacing jobs at your organization in the next 12 months, meaning now, right? Between that was when it was happening, and 66% said no. Nope, not really. Long term, do you see AI replacing jobs at your organization in the next 3 years? 72% said yes. And this word is replacing, not augmenting or supporting. Okay. Interesting stuff, right? Why? What they're expecting that they will get out? Well, actually, we have faster, better. That is how we start building different. Right? That's how we start building different. I have not yet in my work seen lots of job loss due to replacement with AI. So there was a period in which just about every presentation you went to had the slide in which you could, and I think I know I had it in some of my decks too, right? Will robots take my job? It's kind of a fun party trick. I think that we are past, for many job roles, past the are we replacing people, because we're having this conversation, right? And so if you've heard the phrase, AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI, this is where it came from. Right, Kareem Lakhani. Right? This is the hopeful message that people are very excited about, right? This is the terrifying message. So we end up talking more about the hopeful message, and I think that's a useful thing. It means we're not going to be paralyzed with fear. But I think we ought to be considering the fact that, yes, there are things, right? When I am looking here at faster, there are job changes that will happen. Right? So I don't want to be naive about that. This book is kind of driving me bananas in good ways right now. The skill code. I love this, right? And I think this is something as professionals we need to remember. Formal learning, the stuff we create most of the time, right? Gives conceptual knowledge. We build our expertise and our skill by working with experts. Why are apprenticeships and internships so important? Right here. Right? Fascinating read. It's super cool. It is not a book about technology. It's fascinating. So let's dig in a little bit and talk about some of the things that are happening in the faster space. And some of you are already doing these. Some of you already mentioned these things when we were getting started, right? And I think about this in a few dimensions, right? So we're going to get an assistant. We're also assisting our subject matter experts. And I think a few of you mentioned as we were talking about, what are you doing with the AI, right? It's exactly this, right? We're helping ourselves. Helping our subject matter experts help us, right? And sometimes we're building it into the learning experience. And we have what I call standalone, right? Or direct to consumer AI tools. I go to the tool and I know I am doing AI. That is my intent. I go to ChatGPT or Perplexity or Midjourney, right? Or Runway. I go with the express purpose of doing something with AI, right? And then just about every tool I have, right, has a magic AI button. I took this slide to China in April. Somebody translated it for me overnight. Not somebody with an AI tool translated this for me overnight. Is it ugly and cognitively overloading? You better believe it. Next time I will design my slides differently. But right. So this got me faster, and I might argue not better. I'll just put that right out there, right? But fast translation is pretty awesome. What I love, though, when I start thinking about faster is I can start reducing the cost to do things that we know we should do but are difficult and hard in the world, right? I don't know how many, raise your hands, right? If you've tried to pitch the idea of a fully accessible learning experience only to find that the client doesn't actually, or the business sponsor actually doesn't have time or budget to do that, right? It's painful. Right? It's painful. Right? Our team drastically reduced the amount of time it takes to write alt text by using, we built our own very simple alt text partner. You load up any picture, you tell it what's important. Right? I chose a fairly complicated and unique photo that doesn't exist in the world. Yeah, pretty amazing graphics. I actually uploaded one. I uploaded a photograph of me sitting here in my office wearing a hoodie, and asked ChatGPT to write the alt text for it. I told it was a selfie. It knew to switch hands, so it knew which hand I was holding up the phone and which hand I was waving. Amazing, right? I then asked it, if our dress code at the office is business casual, is this person meeting the dress code, and if not, why? And I got a gentle explanation of why me and my hoodie was not a business casual. Right? So many cool things I could do with that, right? Take a photograph of a display case you just set up. Take a photograph of a problem situation. Take a photograph of anything and ask ChatGPT, right? Or build a service and that will help your learners diagnose what's going on.
So this text came from, you gave it a picture and it described it. If you gave that description, would you get the same picture back?
Nope. Nope, I wouldn't, because I actually took the picture with my own phone camera. And it would not be able to generate exactly that. Although, if I were, Scott, if I were using certain tools, ChatGPT does kind of a crummy job with images currently. It's getting better. I could get a similar photograph, but the tools aren't quite there to get it to really be very specific.
Thanks, because I wasn't sure in the slide that's like, oh, you used this description, I got that picture. Wow, that's really
Got it.
good.
Yep. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
So it's the other way around. You can use it to describe a picture, which could be also good for our learners who have a hard time seeing things or even describing what is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hear that more and more, that people actually use AI to design the right AI prompts.
Oh yeah.
And there's lots of little of small spot things to do, right? I want to be thinking about how do I use the tools, and often it's a set of tools to create a complete task, right? So I worked with ChatGPT to create an ethical use framework for AI. Okay. I had some ideas, it had some ideas. I had a pretty idea for an acronym. It came up with a better acronym, right? Worked back and forth. It was my partner. That's generally what I spend my Saturday afternoons here, is in my office talking to my ChatGPT partner. I then said, given this framework, I'd like to write some video scripts using the same framework, right? And style and length and structure that I use for my other off-the-shelf courses that I offer. So I have the intellectual property about these courses. I loaded several of those video scripts up, and I said, now I'd like to write some video scripts about this using this same format. I was able to copy my style, and it's pretty good. Right. I then shot in person some videos. I do that old school. We'll talk in a bit about avatars. I translated the videos using AI tools. Pretty cool. I used it. Don't look at this, because you have to hear the rest of the story on this one. I built an assessment instrument using AI. So we took those video scripts, poured them into a tool that was trained to and very honed in on creating diagnostic self-assessments. We then collect a bunch of data. We used AI to analyze the data that we collected, because we knew that we had too many questions. We wanted to find out which questions were the real, like the ones that had the best item discrimination against the other ones. So we used AI to help us that. We were then using those insights to hone the assessment, and the business, right? The company went out of business. Not my company, the software company I was working with here, right? You should expect to see a fair amount of churn. There's a lot of money being poured in, a lot of people with ideas, entrepreneurs are getting all excited, and you should expect to see a lot of churn. I'm recommending that my clients sign short-term contracts. Right? Because their underlying models are changing and their cost structures are changing. So when they build on top of one of these, it's a very stressful place to be. Oh, here we go. The Cognota LearnOps Academy, which is an awesome experience. And it gets you, I believe it gets you ATD credits. I'm not sure other crediting agencies connect in here. But I've worked as a subject matter expert for the Cognota LearnOps Academy. I've got 2 courses in there, and we created, that is an avatar of me. It's weird, everyone. I'll just put it right out there. It's weird. It's kind of funky. It's animated in different places than my voice is animated, and but I can just upload a script, and Avatar Megan talks that script, and I can change it. And it's pretty, right? If you have to change something quickly, it's pretty powerful. If somebody is horrible in front of a camera, man, that avatar might be better than they are. We all know people who are horrible in front of a camera. The avatar might be better than they are. You don't have to name those people. It's okay, right? So there's some really interesting things going on. What we're looking at is really look at like workflow support across almost everything we can do, right? I encourage you to look across your entire process. What is time consuming? What is inconsistent? What is challenging? Right? And how can you use AI tools to support you and your team? So we have a few projects. This is an amalgamation. It's mostly one project and then a couple of other projects thrown in, where we are from start to finish on a project and all the way through leveraging AI tools to keep a large team consistent, to empower them to be creative where it matters, and to automate what they can, right? To save time and space for that creativity, to save budget for the client so that we can be doing some really interesting stuff. And our clients know that we don't use AI with their work unless they agree to it. Our team has been trained, so nobody uses AI tools without somebody passing our what we call the AI driver's permit. Okay? And they have to be on and walled in company provided model. Right? So the free models that you get out there, they are great for fooling around, but they are not as smart as the ones that you pay 20 bucks a month for. Pay the 20 bucks a month. If you have not, right? If you have, for those of you who are doing it on the side or out from work or whatever, pay the 20 bucks a month. It is well worth it because the improvement is noticeable. A couple of places that you can go to learn more. Margie Meacham and Josh Cavalier both have prompting classes. Recommend both of them. Really smart people, really focused on helping you get this right from a prompting perspective. You can take a look at Christy Tucker's work. She is doing some really, really interesting work and sharing what she's doing for free. And I strongly recommend it. And then every single button you have, or every single tool you already have, is getting a magic button. There's somewhere on there, you will go look for it. It's generally purple, right? And it's got a big, I can't even draw, my goodness. Next time, Megan, use AI, right? And it's got it's got a few stars. It might have a magic wand. That's your signal. That's the AI tool. Click it, see what happens, right? And then evaluate it critically. I'm going to pause here. Any thoughts about faster? I'm going to breaking things down into faster, better, different, revolutionary.
Yes, Mark's got one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a meta faster, if that's a real phrase. Well, it is now. So a few slides back, you showed, the development of, training material, and, all those things like about eight different things. What time does it, how much time do you have to spend figuring out the right tool for one or more of those steps, evaluating it and all that other stuff? I mean, it seems like there's going to be a significant fixed cost, but I don't know if you really only just spend that once.
So there's a couple of things. It's a great question. There are some things that quite honestly, I just do faster myself, right? If I'm doing it once, I'm doing it myself, and I like the way I do it, it's faster. It's just faster for me to do it, right? And there are times when I am doing something and I'm partnering just in like a chat mode with ChatGPT or Gemini. Sometimes I'll put the two of them on different monitors and work back and forth with them and compare. That is not for me, not necessarily faster, but it is better and deeper, and I get to kind of explore in. And I actually, I'm a really fast typist, but I actually turn on voice mode and I get away, and so I have a physically different experience with it, and I'm just kind of jumping in. That's super fun. When we need to do something repeatedly, it works more sense, or it works better to invest the time into building a GPT within ChatGPT. For us, that's our tool, right? When I'm doing it multiple times, if I'm only doing it once, I'm not going to build a GPT. If I'm doing it multiple times, then I am. And we often have a senior person lead the development of that GPT because we want to infuse that with that expertise. I'm going to go back to some of the questions. Lisa asked, how is the voice tone and cadence in the avatar? It's weird. It's very weird. In an early version, I also switched to an Australian accent for absolutely no reason in the middle of it. Like the whole thing was weird. They're great. They're incredible. They're massively powerful and a little weird. Yeah, AI for image creation. Follow Christy Tucker. She is learning out loud and sharing what she's learned, but she's also incredibly smart and doing some really cool work. Copilot better responses than the free ChatGPT. I could believe that totally.
Another question. What have you tried that you thought might be faster but wasn't?
What have I tried that I thought would be faster but wasn't? Nothing comes to mind. That's not saying that just may be where I am tonight, right now, Scott. So I'm not saying that nothing has been faster and not worth it, but yeah. Nothing comes to mind. Anybody got something that you tried using ChatGPT and you're like, nah, or any tool, right? I just happen to use ChatGPT.
It is completely not L&D related, but I was recently like looking at how to price a car I was gonna sell. And I was like, okay, I forgot my login for the service I normally use, and I was like, let me just see what ChatGPT says. But it did give me good information, but I still had to go back and do more outside of the ChatGPT, so it wasn't really faster for that.
Arleia, I'm so glad you said that, right? When we are using AI tools for things they're not good at, it takes more time, right? So I would
Yeah.
think that looking up a specific thing like the value of a car, right? I don't think they're good at that very specific, actual factual stuff right now.
Yeah.
Unless it is trained specifically around, right? I mean, if you're using Kelley Blue Book or whatever it is that you're using, right? And Kelley Blue Book says, I'm going to put a wall around this and I'm going to give you access to this and you interact. And it's a very short throw to the actual truth, right? Rather than a statistical model of what
Yeah.
is probably the right thing to say next.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing. I had literally a couple weeks ago, I was with a client, super smart people were in the room. Somebody said, I just looked up a chat with ChatGPT, whether or not a learning record store would do like whatever it was. And I'm thinking, wow, I would not have looked that up in ChatGPT. That actual information lives actually in the system software, you know, the system documentation for that particular piece of software. I would go look at that because I can get to the actual truth, right? So remember, most of us are old enough to have remembered when we were told, don't use Wikipedia as a source because it's untrustworthy, right? Or when we use Google now, right? We are looking at, right? When we use Google, we are looking at, or any search engine, right? We are looking at multiple sources and we are identifying which ones do we feel are accurate and reliable and trustworthy, right? We're making those decisions. ChatGPT is not doing that. It is math. It is like predictive text on your Facebook, but on steroids. So, thank you for that example. That is wonderful. And yeah, I like that would take you longer because you're not getting anything good out of it. Right? Here's one you can try with folks. And it is getting better, but we still have not found it to be accurate. We have in one of our learning experiences, we send people off on 3 quests. One is to find the stock price of their favorite stock yesterday at 10 a.m. One, right? And then go verify it. Right? We then, right, question number 2 is to ask their AI partner, right, what are the factors that typically go into why this stock goes up or down? You get a really good answer because there's a lot of stuff written out on that, right? And then we have learners ask, should I invest in this stock? A well-trained and polite conversational AI will tell you it is not going to do that, and it recommends you go talk to a financial advisor. Okay. So, right, it's crummy at facts. It's good at vague things that have like multiple right answers and lots of data, and it's horrible at making decisions for you. Which leads us to better. Right? Let's talk briefly about what's happening from a better perspective, right? And I think there's a lot of interesting things going on here, and I think it's still early. You know, the classic, right? Where is AI being used, right? Conmigo and Duolingo, massively AI driven, right? I don't know about you. Have you been asked yet to build something that works just like Conmigo, right? Or I want the Noom of a particular learning experience. Like, yeah, you don't have Noom's budget. Sorry. right? So these these two organizations, right? Like these large things are fantastic and powerful and
What do they
incredibly
do?
focused.
Imagine we haven't been to a conference and seen a booth on these two things. What do these two things do?
Yeah, I was going right there. Thank you. So Conmigo is Khan Academy's AI tutor. And it is fascinating, right? AI helps, right? I just saw something earlier today. Jamie, maybe you saw it too. I kind of zoomed by in the chat and I want to go grab it. But the when students use AI to just go look up the answer, they don't learn much. And those students include us, right? When students engage with an AI tutor that pushes them and challenges them and they go back and forth, they learn a lot, right? So that's the premise of both Conmigo, which is built into Khan Academy, which is generally K-12, although there's kind of fuzzy around the edges, education focused, and Duolingo is a language learning app, right? Little closer to home, Mobile Coach is a rules-based and AI-based chatbot authoring platform that you can use to go make a chatbot. Right? And it's got rules-based, which means, you know, sometimes it's very multiple choice kind of entry stuff. And it does certain things at certain times, so you can control it, which is kind of appealing, right? And it has a walled-off AI language model in there as well. Okay. And for a lot less money, like $20 a month, right? So we at Torrance Learning, we've created a number of GPTs within ChatGPT, and we've got a bunch of others, right? But tools that are custom built for our purposes to meet our needs for our projects. Right? These are things, Mark, these are things that we do repeatedly. And it's worth our time, but also doesn't take a heck of a lot of time to build something that will help our teams here. So super cool thing. I built myself a critical thinking partner, which is loaded up with about 6 different methods for being a devil's advocate, and it is instructed not to tell me that I have the best answer, and not to give me the best answer or tell me that I'm brilliant, right? And so I want it to push me. And it questions me when I engage with it, and it's fantastic, right? I chat with my critical thinking partner on the way into the office in the morning, on the way home, because my business coach does not want me to call him at 7 a.m. Go figure, right? There are others, right? So we built, I'll do a quick case study. We built a learning experience on top of the OpenAI API. So the same folks who brought you ChatGPT also give you an API, a developer kit that you can tap into. We built case study questions that when a student responds, we compare that to a preloaded set of human generated expert responses, not the broad language model, right? And we give feedback back to our learners. And we made back in February at ATD's Technology, we did this crazy stunt where we had a hackathon and we had 5 teams make a chatbot boyfriend. Not that I needed a boyfriend, right? I'm not opposed, but just to be honest, but right, not today, right? The point was, how can we build a highly personalized bot agent, right? To provide coaching and connection. Super, super cool. Right? So better, there's a lot of things that we can be doing better. We hear case studies of onboarding call center reps faster because they have performance support tools that are AI supported and incredibly tailored to what they need and what their customers are presenting to them at any given moment. Right? And we're getting faster speed to proficiency, right? Much faster speed to proficiency using some of these tools. Okay, so Arlea and everybody, one of the things that was really important to us was, how do we do this right? And we created, with ChatGPT, the Why Is It AI framework. We also created this image with Midjourney, and we laid out this slide with the PowerPoint slide designer. Right, so kind of meta here.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
You were earlier in the presentation, didn't you mention someone that was doing something with Midjourney? Is that person,
Yes.
is that name in the chat?
Yes, that's Christy Tucker.
That's the same person. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Right, so we're seeing, as we use AI, both direct to consumer tools, as we are using the power-ups in all of our software, or as we're building products and experiences for others, we are looking at a framework for making sure that we're using it well, right? That wisdom in application, and we are getting it right, right? And we're offering tools and supports. This whole framework is around, how can I make sure that as I am venturing out there in the world of AI, that I have a lens by which I'm evaluating the work that I'm doing. This was really important. So for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, there's so many tools and it's happening so fast and everything is moving and I cannot possibly keep up, I hear you, right? And that was exactly my moment. And I said, but you know what I can keep up with? Getting it right. And that was something that was really important to us, especially as we start moving into the different space. So my question is,
So going back to that, why is it AI? Are other people doing this? Or are they just trying it out and not worried about getting it right? What's your
you know what,
experience with
people, great question. People do care about getting it right. And Microsoft has a similar framework to this. And other organizations are creating these. So this is not, I mean, I have to think it's unique and pretty special because I made it and I believe in the IKEA effect. But the, yeah, there are lots and lots of ethical frameworks and approaches for this. So this is not to say that everybody else out there is just being a wild cowboy and doesn't care.
Well, if you asked AI, can you build me an AI ethical framework? How close would it be to this one?
Pretty darn well. So any 2 times you ask AI a question, you will get the statistically most probable answer, right? And I mean, I mentioned this again earlier, and I'll mention this again. I built this framework with ChatGPT as my thought partner and sparring partner as we did this, right? So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. Good. Is this one of those things that you could have AI help you come up with this ethical framework? Because all of us in our organizations probably are not as mature as your organization is in using AI. That's why we're here. We want to know, where are we in the AI maturity cycle? And we can go, gee, my organization's way behind. That's why it's kind of fun to see what's possible and to kind of determine where are we on that maturity cycle or path.
Thank you, Scott, and I appreciate that. Yeah, at one point I did actually even have a maturity model around this. That was the company that went out of business. They had that was where my model was. So, lessons learned. Yeah, thank you for that. So that's one set of things that we're worried about. What other kinds of things are we worried about?
I don't know that I'm worried about it, but I think that a lot of people, a lot of executives are probably worried about the reliability of the data in their organizations to support AI.
That's huge. So, right, we have the whole concept of garbage in, garbage out. If we feed it garbage, we will get garbage back out, right? And so, and that's not an AI problem. That's right. That's an analytics problem. That's a data problem. That's a critical thinking problem, right? So, but yes, it becomes accelerated and exacerbated when we can do it fast and it looks right. That I think is one of the biggest scary things about these tools is what they give you looks right. What else? What else are you worried about?
I think another concern I hear about and read about actually is the AI process keeps evolving. Excuse me. And so 2 years from now, AI, hold on a second.
Sure thing.
2 years from now, AI will not be the same as it is now. And you've just spent 2 years of your time to get up to a level of proficiency like you have. And then next week, the new AI, you don't need all that.
So I agree entirely, right? The multiplication effect is huge. It's not even multiplication, right? It's exponential. The rate of change. And let's see if I have a relatively blank slide, right? I don't have this slide in my in this deck, so I'm just going to draw it for you, right? Going old school, right? So if we look at the pace of like human adaptability, right? We're getting better at this, right? But the rate of technological change is going like this, right? We're here right now. Okay? If I don't at least try to keep up here, next week it's worse. And next year it's worse. Right? And the gap gets bigger as I go. Now, I also, right? 100%. So on days, this keeps me up at night. Right? There are also still COBOL developers. COBOL was a software program or software language that was used, but I think even before we called it software, back in the 90s and 80s, right? And they make a killing right now. Like, so I think there's yes and, right? So much is moving so fast, and yet there's still lots and lots of pockets where there's still lots and lots of pockets of other things going on too.
Right. I think, like the work that you've done and the little bot, the chat GPTs you've created, if you think about that, there's an amount of time it took you to get to be able to do that. But once you did that, you saw a number of uses with clients and so forth. So in that sense, it doesn't matter that that next dot is going to change things. In the short term, you have a methodology that you can gain value from.
Yes, yes, I'm absolutely gaining value right now, and that frees up the time to innovate to do more. Yeah. And the e-learning authoring tools of today are exponentially better than the e-learning authoring tools of 5 years ago. And the LMSs and the LXPs that we have now, like all of our tools are doing this. AI is moving really fast. So as we think about, right, where these things are going and the kinds of things that worry us, right? And thank you, Erwin, for reminding me that, yes, even though they may be obsolete next week, they are, or next year, it won't be next week. Next year, we're getting good value out of them now, right? There's a lot of different things that are driving what truly different looks like. Right? Just about any survey you look at, organizations do not feel like they have the talent that they need today. The current talent they have anyways is going to need to be reskilled in the next 5 years. At the same time, that more people are retiring than joining the workforce. Globally, on just about every continent, with the exception of Africa and Antarctica. Only Antarctica because they're not making more babies there. Right? So different, right? Our labor force is changing. And none of those three have to do with technology. It's the labor force is changing, right? We may need less labor force. It may be easier to train people when things get changed. And interestingly, our expert human reviewers will have been trained using AI tools. I'm not sure if that's good, bad, or different, but it's a thing. When we start getting to revolutionary, we start getting to chaotic problems, right? Wicked challenges that have no answer and we don't know what it looks like yet, right? So I can't tell you how to operate. I can't tell you what it will look like, but we can start thinking about how we get prepared to operate in that environment, right? And this is the stuff of critical thinking, of change management, of personal reliance and reliability and resilience. Resilience, that's the word I wanted, right? And how do we prepare ourselves and our teams? This AI driver's permit thing that we made it internally. It was was a Google Doc. It's like, go do all these things. When you've done all these things, report back to me. And that became such a popular concept that we built it out and we make it available to organizations, right? And individuals. Right? Because it's something that's useful for us. I am encouraging learning teams to go out and work with their IT and their organizational and their strategy teams, right? Just like Lisa was telling us with her client this morning, right? This is a spot that L&D can be a partner, if not the leader. There are several organizations in which L&D is the leader. Why? Performance people, learning people, you know what we know how to do? Learn new things, close skill gaps, teach other people, measure it, manage a campaign, and iterate on that. This is kind of what we do. This is our time. This is our stuff, right? Your vendors, if you're not building it yourself, and it's totally okay, your vendors are, and you know what? Your vendors get a little bit of money from everybody and ideas from everybody, and they pull all that together. And they identify what might be of value. They're doing a ton of sifting for you. Partner with them. Contact them up. Say, what are you doing? Can I be a pilot tester? Right? And run small, quick pilots and learn yourself. Those GPTs on my page, some of them only took 15 minutes to build. Some of them I actually used ChatGPT to help me build them. Right? Some of them take longer to build. And those 15 minutes are absolutely fueled by a familiarity, a literacy, and a comfort level with building them. Right? But I'm recommending organizations create a community of practice of people who are doing it to connect them to each other. So not only do I start connecting my pockets of innovation and my great ideas, but they are co-evolving and nudging and lifting each other up because they're connecting. Innovation is a social activity. And so I'm building those spaces and recommending my clients build those spaces to have that social happen. Oh, and I found my slide. If you didn't know what I was talking about with the 1993 telephones, that's one of them. That was state of the art. Pretty fancy thing. You can hear the Velcro from there, can't you? Just like coming off that picture. So I would love to keep learning and hanging out with you all and connecting. I would love to know what questions you have. I'd love to know what observations, what you disagree with, what terrifies you. Let's talk. And thank you.
So, yeah, it's Mark. So when you create your agents, your own little GPTs, or your bounce, you're working with your electronic peers and partners and sparring partners and whatnot. What are your considerations with exposing your own intellectual property to those LLMs on the other side?
So when we're creating GPTs, that's a great question, right? When we're creating GPTs, we are doing a couple things. We're doing it within our own paid account as a corporation. So our data is not being used to train the model. We're also pretty careful about which GPTs we make public and which GPTs we keep private. For just that reason. And some of them, quite honestly, are so custom built to purpose that they would be meaningless outside. Right? Like the specific multiple choice question generator around a specific topic that follows, like it wouldn't be useful to you. So that's one piece of the concern, Mark. As far as in general, like our intellectual property as a firm, I'll tell you a funny story. I had somebody call me up the other day or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and she said, "Hey, I'd like to work with you on a thing." And I'm like, "Great, that seems like a great thing." She said, "Before we talk, I asked AI Megan Torrance what she would answer to this question that I had. And here's the 5 things that basically ChatGPT told me that you would say." And I was both fascinated and terrified at the same time. Right? The first 3 were pretty spot on. The other 2, I'm not sure I agree with. And that's okay, right? It gives us an opportunity to have a conversation about that. Here's the interesting, right? So is that taking money out of my pocket? No, actually, in this case, she called me up anyways, right? Are there plenty of people doing that and not calling me? Probably. They were Googling me or buying a $35 book before instead of calling me up for a lot more than $35, right? I would just be perfectly honest. But at the same time, the other question is, to my reputation, if she took answers 4 and 5 and felt like she got them from Megan Torrance, what does that do? Because I actually don't agree with those. I don't think they were great ideas for her. So there's a lot of really interesting questions, and we don't have all the answers yet.
Megan, let's flip it around to the employee side of the world. I mean, I haven't, run a training department for a long time now, but I've seen this over and over with training in different companies, that the employees will go to some kind of a class event or even an online event. And then after the class, they don't know how to do it tangibly after the class. They go back to their workplace and nobody asked them to do whatever they learned. And so, they forget stuff. And they were never mastered it at a real level unless they had a real project to use it on. So now take AI. Most people don't even know what it is yet. Frankly, I've seen that data. And so, so they're going to be busy jumping around learning how to ask questions to ChatGPT, which will have some benefits. But the reality is there are going to be a subset of people, like you, who can go further along and create value producing things. And a lot of people are going to get very scared very quickly that, I can't do trigonometry, and this is trigonometry to them, or even it's algebra to them, And so I think that's the scary part, is what are we going to, I don't think some people are going to be willing to be upskilled, if not even able to be upskilled. So how do we deal with that?
I think that's an opportunity for a whole bunch of compassion, right? And connecting with people. There are there is a very real risk of further stratification in American society, globally, right, among people who use the tools and people who don't. And while I feel that it is beholden of the people who use the tools, have access to the tools, who are creating value and excess revenue because of that, right? To take proactive steps to bridge that. It may not always feel like it's in their best interest in a purely capitalistic environment, right? It's yeah, right. I mean, it's the digital divide, and this makes the digital divide bigger and greater. At the same time, there are opportunities to provide personalized tutors and coaching and support to people that organizations or school districts wouldn't have had the resources to do, right? And so there's both sides, right? It is a wicked, gnarly challenge for us. And I think what I like about L&D playing a really active role in this, Erwin, is that we ask these questions. We're not the only ones asking these questions, but we ask it. The people ask these questions and think about these things. And I don't think the recording is posted yet, but with Training Magazine Network, we did a webinar today in which we asked wicked questions, and discussed them. We had no answers. We had lots of questions because they're hard challenges, and literally spent an hour asking questions. And it's behind a sign-up wall, but it's a free sign-up wall that gives you access to like 3,500 recorded webinars since the dawn of time. It's a pretty good deal. So it's a good thing. So anyways, that's a really, awesome. Thank you, Jamie. That's the link to that webinar today. And that was one of our challenges, was like, does this help us bridge equity gaps and digital divides, or does this make them worse? We also talked about like the environmental. These things suck amazing amounts of energy, right? Are we using these tools to solve energy crises or make it worse? It was a good, mind-blowing hour.
You know, in some ways, a lot of people won't have to learn these tools because products are integrating AI into themselves. You know, Oracle and PeopleSoft are moving fast in that direction. So they'll help you figure out how to do something with that tool's boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty interesting. I can use ChatGPT to help me write a GPT that is written in English anyways. Right. So the new Josh Penzel said it in I first heard him say it in February this year, and it kind of like, whew, right? He said the new hot programming language is English, or basically whatever language you speak. Right? My dad uses ChatGPT. He's over 80. Hops right in. I mean, the weekend I showed it to him, my mom was like, "Oh, I'm not going to see him for a week."
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. It's definitely true. I was doing some programming in Python a couple of months ago, and I remember learning the program a long time ago, and like C++, and having to actually know the language and understand everything about the syntax, and you actually don't need that anymore. I mean, you want to know something about the background, but there was a lot of things that I could quickly script in Python without, and I could learn it later after I scripted it,
All right, so we want to watch Arleia disappear for a week. Arleia, if you go out to Claude AI, pay the $20 to get the per month to get the subscription. You can model software prototypes, then ask it to develop the code. You download the code, load that up into your favorite code authoring tool. You're ready to rock and roll. It's not perfect, but you can test it and debug it in Claude before you've actually coded it.
Nice.
Which AIs are worth paying for? You mentioned a few, but maybe in the chat or overall, which are the ones that you guys pay for that are?
You know, it depends on what your use case is. So, if you are into graphics, and don't mind getting a Discord account or already have a Discord account, Midjourney is outstanding for graphics. I'm not good at graphics, so I have an account in Midjourney. I don't use it often. Adobe Stock also has an AI generator built into it. So if there's something on the Adobe Stock library that's not quite what you want, you can make it a little bit more what you want. I have both Gemini and ChatGPT. If I was only spending $20 on one of those, I would use ChatGPT. I am a fan of Perplexity. I have not spent nearly enough time in Copilot, which exists on my laptop for free. So there's that. I think Claude is, if you're starting to build things, model things, I think Claude is a really interesting place to go. But I think I just described, so in each of them, interesting that they're all about like $20 a month. So it can add up fast. So it's, but yeah, if you're just getting started, ChatGPT.
Are you looking to hire people that have experience in AI for learning, or are you looking for people that are just able to learn new things as a company owner? And like I said, what's the future? How could this help? How could my skills in AI help me in my career in the future? Because, and again, that's either for you or for Lisa. Are you guys going to be looking for people that have experience in AI a year from now?
Lisa, you want to go? Might as well both.
You know, that wouldn't be the first thing I was looking for. The first thing I'd look for are understanding and great analysis skills around performance consulting, and then great instructional design chops, because the tools come and go and change. So then more a thirst and a curiosity and desire to learn.
Yeah, I am still hiring instructional designers and developers and consultants. I'm giving you all the cheat here. I ask, what are you currently fascinated with? And what are you experimenting with? I want curiosity. And so certainly being curious about tools is a requirement. I mean, it's kind of, and even in my Penn State class, right? I don't want to be churning out instructional designers who don't know how to use the tools. I think I'm doing them a disservice, and I'm doing the industry a disservice if I am churning out instructional designers who choose to do things the old slow way. I also want to churn out instructional designers who think about it critically, what they're doing, how they're doing, and are they doing it the right way? And our textbook is Dick and Carey. So we got like, I didn't pick the textbook. But you know, we've got both ends of the spectrum in our class. Lisa, I'm loving your Lisa Smith, I'm loving your stuff in the chat. I can never figure out Discord. You know, I was never a big fan of Discord until the kids in my house said that's how we communicate. So if I want to be where they are, I got to be on Discord. And my hockey team's on Discord. It's also, I don't do anything. I don't do too much professionally on Discord.
Any more questions or comments for Meg as we wrap up here?
Everybody,
we're probably going to end this up. We're going to send out the deck and the recording to everybody who was here tonight and everybody who missed it. So that kind of catches up on stuff. Again, thanks. You know, probably reach back out to you in a year, Meg, to go, okay, it's been a year. What's different? What is better, and what risks are we coming? Because that'd be interesting. Is we don't have any risks right now, but I'd be really fascinated on, here are the risks now a year later. Or, you know, what mistakes have been made that have caused big issues or problems for companies and stuff. So it's gonna be an endless field, but we'll definitely kind of reach back to you and to find out, hey, where are we a year, 18 months from now? So is it like you're gonna be on top of this one until the next bright shiny object comes out?
Until the yeah, this one's kind of stolen a lot of the air out of the room. I do have a whole presentation that's full of mistakes, like don't do these things, including several that my team and I have done. So that's an interesting one. That one's always, we're building that one as we go.
All right. Hey, thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.